Okay, FAQ number 56. What about Gail Riplinger? A lot of the new version perverts, the Alexandrian perverts, like to say that Gail has been debunked over and over again, even by King James only men and all this stuff, and she's just a crazy nut and everything else, and all of her research is ridiculous, and you shouldn't even listen to anything that she says. I don't think so. I have just a small little sampling here of books that Gail wrote. I have, I think, just about everything that she has ever written. I have all the different videos that she was in, and Gail Riplinger was one of the first, people that really helped me to get into ministry. She was the first one to sell my video from NIV to KJV, the old one, and then I revised it. She's just been a real source of encouragement to me over the years, and I really do appreciate her. I think she's one of the finest women of God out there. Very meek, humble spirit, and but I understand why she gets attacked. Because you see, she committed the quote-unquote unpardonable sin for these Alexandrian perverts, for them, for their system, the thing that they did not want to come out. And that is that she tied together the occult with the new version issue. They don't like that. You see, because many of the Alexandrian perverts are into naturalistic textual criticism. If you don't know what that means, watch the FAQ number 54. I looked down at my list here. These guys don't believe in supernatural things. It's just all just books and translation and proper words and blah, blah. They don't see the spiritual aspect of it. And Gail Riplinger, in this book, New Age Bible Versions, she tied in many of these changes in these new versions with the occult world. The Luciferians, like Madame Blavatsky of the Theosophical Society. And she shows where these New Agers, Alice Bailey, Madame Blavatsky, a lot of these people, they have certain philosophies, and these philosophies are creeping into these new versions. And, it's right there. And people say, oh yes, but we've proved that the problems, I'll tell you a little story here just to kind of illustrate my point. There was this one hireling at a Catholic church I used to go to, Mount Zion Baptist Church, and this Terry, can't think of what his last name was now, but he was the assistant pastor there. And I said something about Gail Riplinger, and he was like, oh yeah, well, we don't believe in what she is because David Cloud, brother David Cloud has debunked her and stuff. And I said, what part of her book did he debunk? He said, well, pretty much the whole thing. I said, okay, what about page 219? And he looks at me, he goes, huh? I said, page 219. What about the information on page 219? Or how about page 313 or 402 or whatever? And he's just like, huh? And I said, did he debunk everything on every page? I said, first of all, did you read the book? No. Why not? Well, David Cloud told, he debunked it, so I didn't bother reading it. Well, okay, yeah, that's smart. But I said, did he debunk every single point that she ever made? See, again, these naturalistic textual criticism type of people, they have this philosophy that if you can debunk a couple points in the book, then you throw out the rest of the book. That's how they handle the Bible, you see. If you can prove a few inconsistencies and translational errors in the King James Bible, then you can throw out the whole thing, right? You see the mentality of these people? And by the way, Gail has answered all these critics. There's other books and things. I think the Blind Guides, things, she answered a lot of these, attacks on her book here. But the fact of the matter is, even if you can say, well, she was wrong in 10 quotes in the book, what about the other hundreds of pages? And let me tell you how I came to get this copy of this book. Way back when I first got into the Bible version issue, I heard about this thing, and I heard of all the controversy back and forth. And I actually was going to another Baptist church at the time, Cornerstone Baptist, and one of the deacons knew that I was getting into the Bible version issue, and he handed me a whole thing rebutting this book, saying that this book was wrong. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to read Gail's book first, and then I'll read this whole thing debunking her book. So I had a whole collection of new versions at that time, and because from my past lost life, using these new versions. And so I read her book from cover to cover, and I'd go through and it'd say, like here on page 289, my kingdom is not of this realm. Here in John 18 verse 36 in the NIV, NASB, at all. In other words, and others is what that means. King James Bible says, my kingdom is not of this world. New versions say realm. King James says world. And so what I started to do is I started to go through there and I started to, and I'd put the book down. I remember I'd take a bookmark and I'd stick it in there, and I'd look up in my NIV and I'd get my King James Bible and I'd look it up and I'd say, whoa, she's right. It does say that. And I looked up every single reference that she had in there. And I began to see, there is a conspiracy here. There is a satanic conspiracy. I mean, why would you have, all of these verses being changed that, the new versions go softer on Roman Catholicism. They definitely are producing an Antichrist spirit and Antichrist, groups of people. The churches that begin to use the new versions, all of a sudden the whole spirit changes. You get these King James Bible using church buildings, and they start to use the new versions, and all of a sudden everything falls apart. They bring in the rock music, they bring in the whole one world, philosophy. And so, I read her book, and it's like, wow, this stuff works out. And then I started to look at these quotes from these guys, that supposedly debunked her book, and I started to see that their arguments against her just weren't holding up. And they talk about, well, she misquoted. She took the words of Westcott and Hort out of context and things like this. And I actually looked it up, and I got the photo scanned images of the whole Westcott and Hort's, the life and letters of Westcott and also then of Hort. And it's in my video, the Real Bible Version Issue Exposed. And I show the actual pages, the actual quotes. Nobody's taking redoing their quotes or anything. I mean, these guys were heretics. She quotes that in her book here. And these new versionists just, they kind of think that, oh, well, nobody out there is actually going to see the quotes, so we'll just, say that Gail misquoted Westcott and Hort, and most people aren't going to look it up, so they'll just believe us. And that's unfortunately what most people do. And so I saw that thing, and I like I said, I asked this assistant pastor, and I said, how is it that you can overthrow the whole book because of a few little quotes here and there where these people are questioning her? And of course, I asked him, do you believe that there is a New Age conspiracy here to destroy the Bible? Well, and I don't believe in conspiracy. That's the whole issue. That's why there's so much animosity towards Gail Riplinger. Okay, they can't get her for her attitude because she's not like Ruckman. Ruckman's very abrasive and things like that. He'll call people stupid or whatever else, and people get offended at that, so they'll attack Ruckman over his speech. But they can't use that on Gail Riplinger because she's very sweet and very nice and very humble. So they say, well, she's a conspiracy theorist or whatever else. And they'll try to throw out her books based on a few quotes that they don't agree with. But nobody has ever come close to answering this whole book. And they never will. They can't. So if you want to study this issue and really get an in-depth knowledge of this issue, I highly recommend Gail Riplinger's books, all of them, and all of her videos. And people come along and tell you, oh, well, she's been debunked and things. No, she hasn't. No, she has not. Like I said at the beginning, the problem with Gail Riplinger is she ties the new versions in with the Luciferian New Age conspiracy that's bringing about the New World Order. And you talk to these new versionists, they don't even believe in that. So that's the issue with Gail Riplinger.